Climbing to the top takes more than just hard work and smart choices. It's the passion that drives you from within, the endurance to keep going through difficult times, and having a very clear vision of how to succeed. That's what we strive for at CBZ. We're a diversified and innovative listed financial services group in Zimbabwe with a complete range of activities, including banking, short and long-term insurance, asset management, and property investments. CBZ has been a pinnacle for stability in the economic landscape of Zimbabwe, stemming from our deep-rooted values, our excellent customer service delivery, and our corporate vision to strive for excellence as a global competitor. Our continuous investment in research and development will cement our promise to provide customer convenience utilizing state-of-the-art technology. Relationships are at the core of what we do. We understand, however, that strong, long-lasting partnerships are not built overnight. With over 3 decades of wealth management, we have come to understand our clients and their specific investment requirements. Our unique mix of skills ensures that investment opportunities are examined from all perspectives. The balancing rocks of Zimbabwe have weathered the elements for thousands of years and stood the test of time, like majestic reminders of the fine balance of nature. They challenge our perception of what is possible and what endures. Just as CBZ has weathered the economic storms and remained steadfast throughout the turbulence of unsettled economies. Achieving the impossible through resilience and stability, we balance the elements of hard work, dedication, and experience, making us your ideal partner for success.
Hello viewers, welcome to yet another edition of Special Focus on Equity Access, your area of perspective of stock market developments and of developments in the Zimbabwean economy. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Now on the show today, I'm joined on set by a veteran economist who was chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Public Accounts for a good 10 years with a comprehensive understanding of the Zimbabwean economy, none other than Eddie Cross. Eddie, good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Stephen.
Splendid. Now, Eddie, you have a widespread understanding of things in the Zimbabwean economy, where it is that Zimbabwe is coming from, where Zimbabwe is, and perhaps where Zimbabwe could find itself should it take the right set of moves from this point on. Now, before we get into the teensy-weенsies of our conversation, what is your general assessment of what we've seen play out in Zimbabwe vis-a-vis government policy?
Well, I think since July 2018, the elections, the new government has launched a major program of reform, both political and economic, in the economy. And the economic reforms have been substantial. The IMF is very happy with our reforms. In fact, they are saying that we should actually accelerate the pace of reform. And I agree with them to some extent. I think we've been too slow to take some decisions. But nevertheless, they say we're absolutely on track. They're very pleased with what we've done so far. And I think Mtuli has to be commended for that. It's been tough medicine. We've all paid a huge price. But I think now we're slowly getting to the end of it. I think by Christmas this year, we'll be out in the clear.
I realize. Now that you just mentioned the Finance Minister, Professor Mtuli Ncube, and he came onto the scenes introducing austerity. What is your comment where that particular policy is concerned in terms of the tax burden on the masses? Was it essential? He's gone on to boast about the surplus. Your general comment where that is concerned?
The surplus is not anything to boast about. It's something to recognize and that it was an achievement, because we came from a situation where for the previous 40 years we've been running a budget deficit, a substantial budget deficit. First 20 years after independence, we averaged 9% per annum. And then during the Mugabe, latter part of the Mugabe era, the budget deficit simply got out of control. When Mtuli came on the scene, it was 40% of our all expenditure. Completely unsustainable. And so what Mtuli did was to take action to stop that. He imposed discipline on the civil service, They can't spend money that they haven't been allocated, and he's introduced new taxes which balance the budget. So we have a fiscal surplus now. We must be careful not to squander that. We're under huge pressure to raise wages and salaries, and it's very important that the government does not spend more money than it has in the kitty. Very important for all of us. But I do think that the period of austerity now needs to be brought to an end. I think we need to get our exchange rate right so that we curb inflation. We need to improve the real buying power of what we are earning, because that's the other side of the equation. We can do that in several ways. And we need to start looking at carefully managed wage increases to restore people's living standards.
Interesting. You brought about an interesting subject, the interbank market system. What is your comment in terms of the statutory instrument 142? In particular, of course, this is the instrument that brings in the Zimbabwean dollar. What is your perspective in as far as its dictates are concerned vis-a-vis the implementation thereof?
Well, really, you've got to go back to February 2019 when the monetary policy statement was released by the Reserve Bank. In that statement, they made two fundamental announcements. One was that they were going to form a monetary policy committee to manage monetary policy,
right,
independently of the Reserve Bank. And the second one was that they were going to introduce an interbank market for foreign exchange, which would operate on a willing seller, willing buyer basis. That means a market basis. And the big problems we've had since February 2019 in terms of the runaway inflation peaking at 175 this month, the last month, and with an exchange rate of around 15-1, which is the primary cause of the runaway inflation, and the very sharp decline in living standards, because we've held incomes down while prices have been allowed to run. That was primarily because the Reserve Bank did not follow through on their own undertakings.
Okay.
And when the Minister of Finance responded with SI 142, which was a desperate measure to stop the runaway exchange rate, and it did do that. It was very successful. Within a week, the rate was down by about 40%. It came down from 15-1 to 8-1, 9-1 today. And also, the market today is clearing at about 10-1, which it wasn't doing previously. So those are important developments, but it's not enough. And there's still no interbank market. Doesn't exist. There's no electronic platform for trading between banks. The banks are all operating in silos. They're dealing with their own clients. They're negotiating deals privately. There's no market. There's no transparent market.
Now, concerns have been raised in terms of there being a need for transparency on the interbank market system. What would transparency bring, and what policy could be brought into the picture to ensure transparency onto that system?
I think first you've got to write a short dictionary for the Reserve Bank governor.
A dictionary?
You've got to, and the first word you've got to describe is transparency.
Fair enough.
They don't understand that. They don't practice transparency. They don't publish their figures. There's no information coming through to us. We don't know what's happening. We do not know today what's happening, either on money supply or on how much money is being traded, or what the Reserve Bank is receiving, what are they paying, how they're dealing with the money that they do hold. We don't have any information at all. The interbank market, they publish a rate in the bank, but it's pure fiction. And then I get a rate on my cell phone produced by somebody in the informal sector, the traders.
Right.
And they put a rate on. So Money Market says the informal market rate today is 12-1. But there is no market. There is no formal market. There's no transparency. And I think that is the key issue which the government, which the ministry and the Reserve Bank have got to address. It's mainly the responsibility of the Reserve Bank.
What then can we do at this point to bring a balance in that market?
I'm telling you, if you made me president for one hour,
right,
the next day you wake up in a new Zimbabwe. Because what I would do, I would immediately instruct the banks, and all it takes is one instruction, that on 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, you come to the Reserve Bank, you sit around a table in the basement, you bring your selling orders and you bring your buying orders for foreign exchange, and we negotiate around the table what we are going to do. The second thing I would do is I'd say that everybody who is earning foreign exchange, all banks, all bureau de changes, everybody who's receiving foreign exchange must immediately place it on the interbank market, immediately, so that the full flow of foreign exchange will go through the interbank market. We'd then have a rate. We'd then have a real rate. We'd know what the value of the Zimbabwe dollar was. And I'm telling you, we would be shocked, because the dollar would be worth 2.8, 2.2 to 1. And imagine what that would mean for you as an individual. It trebles the value of your income. It would immediately reduce prices in the open market. Supermarkets would have to reduce their prices immediately. Within weeks, we would be down to a situation where we had no inflation. That's what it means. That single act, and we could do it in 24 hours. Why are they not doing it?
Good question.
Yeah. And I think the answer is, I think the governor of the Reserve Bank and his merry men are trying to defend their turf. This is where they get their power from. This is where they get their influence from. No exchange control. No control on gold.
Need to move toward liberalization. The maize situation
We are
is
not
concerned.
short of foreign exchange. There's no reason why we should be short of electricity. There's no reason why we should be short of fuel. People say I'm crazy. Not at all. If you look at our exports are at record levels right now. $500 million a month. Our imports have fallen by 25% because of the high costs of all imported items.
Right.
Okay, so our imports are now about 4.3, 4.5. We have a surplus in our balance of payments, a real surplus. Right now, we have more than $1 billion US dollars in our bank accounts. Right now. Okay. RTGS balances about 1.3. So there's not enough RTGS in the country to buy the foreign exchange that's in the market. So if we had a free market for foreign exchange in the Reserve Bank, which is transparent, where everybody is participating, and everybody's selling, and everybody's allowed to buy, you'd have a price for the US dollar here in RTGS, which I think would be too strong. I think we should then buy foreign exchange off the market in order to maintain a level which will boost the exports, say 4 to 1. But at that price, 4 to 1, bread prices would come down. At the moment, paying $7, you'd be paying $3.80, half price for bread. When fuel is $6, you'd be paying $4 for fuel. At an open market rate, no shortages. This is fundamental, and it is the key issue, and it can be solved in 24 hours. That's what frustrates us in the economics field. This is totally within our control, and we're allowing people to distort the market, and the price people are paying is terrible.
Question that I'll still ask on the same subject is, RBZ promised to put in a good 50% of all Forex that passes through the system.
Yeah.
Has RBZ been true to its word?
Not a cent. 3 weeks now. Not 1 cent.
Question then would be, is the $664 million that the RBZ did indicate last week that he says has been traded on the market, is it a credible figure? Can we hold on to that? Is it true? Is it authentic?
It might be, but it's not Reserve Bank money. The Reserve Bank takes 50% of all foreign earnings. They retain for their own use. Okay? And they promised that 50% would go onto the interbank market. Not 1 cent has been released. Why did the market tumble from 15 to 8? You know who did it? Informal sector. Because now suddenly they couldn't use the US dollar for trading, for buying things. Okay? So they sold the US dollar. And the aggregators, the bureau de changes, the money changers and so on, then we started banking their money. And I'm telling you, millions and millions of dollars have been flowing into the bank system from the informal sector in the last 3 weeks. But it wasn't the banks, and it wasn't the Reserve Bank. They made no contribution. If they had done what was asked of them, and in my view, I fought very hard for no retentions for the Reserve Bank. None. If they want money, if they want foreign exchange, they buy it on the interbank market. In fact, if a minister wants to travel abroad and he wants to travel first class or business class and he needs $2,000 to pay for the ticket, he must buy it on the interbank market, just like me. Okay? But that means he's got to have the money in his budget to do that.
Right.
And they don't have the money in their budgets for that. So they go to the Reserve Bank, and the Reserve Bank gives them the foreign exchange at 1-to-1.
Interesting.
That's what they've been doing. That's what they've been doing. And that must stop. It must stop nasi, not mangwana. Today.
Interesting. Now, Eddie, the IMF has projected a 5.2% decline in terms of our GDP. World Bank at negative 3.8. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, AFDB is in the positive at 4.2. Of course, our government at a positive 3.1. What is your assessment? What do you think is going to play out?
The economy is growing. Our exports are running at record levels. The economy is growing.
So it's a growth.
Our export sector is making money hand over fist. They're making so much money they don't know what to do with it. Our export sector, because of the distortion in exchange rates. In fact, I think they're making too much money. Okay, and that's being reflected in very high levels of tax receipts, and it's being big profits in the export industries. And I think that is a distortion which reflects the foreign exchange imbalances in the economy. I think the informal, remember, we are 60-70% informalized.
Affirmative.
Yeah. The formal sector might be having some difficulties, but the informal sector is roaring. We have a building boom. Have you tried to buy cement recently?
Not quite.
Okay. Why are we consuming 3 million tons of cement a year? We've got the biggest building boom in our history underway. Who's doing it? It's the informal sector. It's the diaspora. The diaspora are sending money in here. We've had a very bad season this last year. People in the rural areas are very short of food. You know who's feeding them?
Diaspora.
Not the government. It's diaspora. Our diaspora is huge. We have 5 million Zimbabweans in the diaspora. They earn more money in wages than our GDP. So what you can say really, we have an informal sector which is 60-70% of GDP. That's the IMF figure. It might be more. So if our GDP is 25 billion, there's a $32 billion GDP here which you don't see. And then we've got a GDP which is bigger than that in the diaspora. So our combined GDP, if you look at Zimbabweans, okay, diaspora, informal sector, formal sector, is probably close to $100 billion a year.
Okay.
You know, the problem is you can only tax the formal sector. The 2% tax by Mtuli was a brilliant move because for the first time it's a serious tax being paid by the informal sector. Serious tax. EcoCash is the biggest taxpayer in the country. EcoCash. One taxpayer. Remember the 2% too. It only has 30 people paying the tax. That's all. It's the most efficient tax. You know, you don't feel it. You pull out your card and you pay for your coffee or your meal, or you pull out your EcoCash and you pay for your taxi. You don't feel it, but it's there. Everybody's paying it. And so I think we're on the right track. And my personal feeling is by the end of the year, our month-on-month inflation will be very low.
Will be very low. It came in at 175. Dr. John Mangunjika says 10 to 15%. Mtuli Ncube at some point hinted on a single-digit inflation. What is your perspective?
Single digit.
Single
5%
digit.
by the end of the year.
5%?
Yep. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. I don't think so. Because all we've got to do is fix that, and we can fix it in 24 hours. I want to tell you that. The rate would tumble immediately, if we did just those two small things
Run the interbank
correctly
ensure
and
transparency,
put all the money on
50%. The
no, all of
RBZ.
it. I would do all of it.
Okay.
I would take it away from the Reserve Bank. I'd take all foreign exchange trading away from the Reserve Bank.
Now, Professor Mthuli has hinted on of course, on the 31st, he's got an interim budget, and
Right.
he's hinted on playing around with the text. If you were in Mthuli shoes, how would you have played the script, or how would you play the script on the 31st?
I would raise the PAYE tax-free limit on the salaries very substantially.
Okay.
My personal recommendation would be $5,000 a month. Nobody underneath that pays tax. That are tax-free. Number one, why collect tax from 500,000 people? Okay? You got the 80-20 principle. Those 500,000 people pay 20% of PAYE. Okay? Those guys can afford it. A person earning $5,000 a month cannot afford to pay tax. And if they did that, you'd be giving, if you made the tax-free limit $2,000, you'd be giving a 25% increase in salary. Because instead of paying $500 a month to the tax department, which is what they're currently paying, that would go into their pockets. If you fixed it at $5,000, you're probably giving them $2,000. You're probably doubling their income.
Okay.
Okay, so I would tackle the PAYE limit. Second thing I would tackle, we must stop restricting imports and simply put a tariff on all finished goods. Let's collect 25% of the value of all finished goods being imported to the country. That'll protect our local industries, it'll raise revenue substantially, and it means too that if you're importing items, you'll pay more for those imported items.
But our local industry seems to be in a bit of a fix. I mean, power concerns and stuff. So if we limit imports, how would that play out?
On the power side, we cannot carry on as we are. We cannot function as a country on 6 hours of power a day. Don't delude yourself. We cannot, okay? We are crippling our industry. We are crippling the country. So we have to import power. Where there is ample power outside the country, our needs are tiny.
Yeah, I just checking the stats. In 2017, we imported an average of 16 million. 2018, an average of 17. But in 2019, we've just been doing just about $3 million, which is actually a 79% decline.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's lunacy, especially because there's plenty of foreign exchange. I'm told that by ZESA, it would cost us less than $20 million a month to bring power into free supply. What are we waiting for? Why no decisions? Because that, to me, you got to make me president for 24 hours.
Okay.
1 hour is not enough. 24 hours be plenty.
Just 24 hours.
It's enough. Okay. But joking aside, really there are solutions to all our problems. The shortage of bread. Are we crazy? Do we think there's a shortage of wheat in the world? No. It's just, can we pay for it? Of course we can pay for it. And it can be paid for at a market price. But you've got to get the exchange rate right.
Well, interesting perspectives there, Eddie. Thank you so much for your contributions, and thank you so much for your home hospitality. Thank you, viewers, for staying with us. This concludes this edition of Special Focus. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, as well as on our news website, www.equityaccess.net. From the Equity Access team and I, Danke and ciao.